Excuse me. Ooh, gee. Bless me. A nice gentle start to today's video. That was actually filmed a week ago. Finally getting some seeds in. So I'm going to, shortly we're going to go to the garden. Hang on a sec, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pots, is that what I need? Yeah, we'll go down the garden and show you how those seeds have got on. I've still got quite a lot of seed sowing to do, but today I'm just I'm just grabbing these pots because in the bag I brought with me today my lovely Palagonium cuttings. Oh my goodness, flowering already. Some of them have been flowering, so I've been just snipping the flower stalks out because I don't want them putting energy into that. I want them to be just concentrating on their roots. It's way time they were potted up. I've got, oh, do you know what? Come closer, let's have a sit down and a proper catch up before we go down the garden path. That's better. Gosh, it's so bright already. It's the morning still, it's before noon, I don't know, about 11:30. Okay, geraniums. First things first, hallelujah, we've had some rain. We had it, trying to remember which night, Wednesday night going into Thursday, really quite heavy. I could hear it as I was falling asleep, lulled by that wonderful sound. Unfortunately I couldn't get to the garden on Thursday, which would have been ideal for doing some more sowing, but sowing direct, never mind. Also for digging my beds. And then Friday, pretty much all day it rained. Yay! So I'm here the day after and everything looks so fresh and vibrant. I will show you when we get down there. So I'm just grabbing, I've only got a couple of hours spare today, I'm grabbing them to be here. So let's crack on. Right, first things first. Yay! You might recognise it if I do it like that. The girls next door were having a bit of a clear out. They were getting rid of it. They know what I'm like for repurposing, using again. They said, would I like it? And I said, yes, please, straight away, because I'm going to use it as a catnip cage to put my catnip here. So the catnip will be planted, they're still coming on at home, into the ground, somewhere in the herb bed, and then this over the top. And I'll have to stake it into the ground really well. I've got those wonderful stakes though that I use for holding mesh down. So that the idea being that the little teeny tiny catnips as they're at the moment can get going, get established, get that plant big and established. It might even grow up through. But yeah, let it get established, before I start harvesting from it. But this is to hopefully keep the cats from rolling on it and chewing it before it's even, had a chance to get going. I think it should work well. The main thing will be if I can keep the stakes in the ground, because I've got a feeling the cats may try and rip it off. So yes, thank you to the girls next door. And it's kind of rusty, I like that, and the sort of the lines of it, I like that kind of architectural feel of it. So even before the plant gets going, I think, oh, it's just a little pop of interest in the herb bed. I know some of you may be thinking, Vivi, you're mad, it's just rubbish. It's rubbish in your herb bed. I think it's going to look cute. So that's for the cat Nip. That's the Nepeta Cataria. That's the stuff I started from seed. I pricked a load out at home, but then I had 3 pots where I thinned it a bit, but I've left, because they're such tiny wee seedlings, I've left them in clumps in those pots just to grow together. The idea being that then I'll take the whole clump out and whack it into the ground. Let's see how they compare to the ones that I've actually pricked out and put in individual pots, but they're still teeny tiny at the moment. As I said at the time, I wasn't expecting this to be a business to start this year. It's more of a longer term thing, hopefully next year. But if you remember, at the same time I made a mistake and I bought cat mint. I bought them as plug plants. 6 little plug plants, they were tiny. So the minute I got them, the parcel arrived, I took them upstairs and I immediately potted them. I potted them into little pots. Okay, so 3 have died already. That one, that's dead. That's now dead. This one looks like it's about to be dead. So it looks like I will only have 1 survivor. I can't tell you how disappointed I am. It's not like I'm a complete novice with growing. I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't mean that, I'm an expert and like, ooh, big-headed, whatever, but I do know what I'm doing when it comes to growing. So I should be writing to the company. The thing is, I think they were too small when they came. I think to try to make them bush out, they cut out the main growing stem, and I think they were just too little for that. So yeah, 6 plants, and I'm going to end up with 1. And it sort of reminds me of that ghastly experience I had with, what's it called, Victoriana Nursery or whatever, when I bought, I can't remember if it was 8 or 9, maybe even 10 little herb plants. I'd been given some money for Easter from Auntie Teapot, so instead of buying chocolate, buy plants. Plus, I put a bit of my own money towards it. I spent £30 in the end on these small herb plants. And when they arrived, the packaging, let me get to potting, the packaging was awful. They weren't kept, the plants weren't kept separate from each other, they weren't kept upright. It was just a box of broken bits of plant, soil. It was just chaos. And out of all of them, 1, the lemon balm, survived, and I nurtured it, and then potted it in down here. Lemon balm's pretty indestructible. But that was a dreadful experience, because I wrote to the company and they demanded photos. I sent photos of as soon as I opened the box, I took photos. They weren't satisfied. They said, well, just look after them, they'll be fine, they'll grow. And 2 weeks later, half of them were dead. After 3 weeks, they were all dead, and they basically tried to say that I hadn't grown them properly. It's like, there's not much in terms of growing that you can do wrong. I didn't overwater them. It was just ridiculous, and it's sort of, and I remember at the time saying, that's it, I'm never buying plug plants again, and I forgot, of course, and then went and bought these. I think the lesson learned is this is about buying online. And I think it's probably better to just go to a local nursery, a local garden centre, so that you can inspect the actual plant that you're buying, rather than, but the packaging that Victoriana Nursery, whatever it was just ridiculous. I'd gone online to see about reviews. There was an independent review site, and there was a whole thread just about this one place. And the one thing that everyone was saying was how ridiculous the packaging was. Anyway, that's the past. No more plug plants in the post for Vivi. So, the Geranium Pelegoniums, of course, cuttings. These were just snipped from the mother plants which I keep at home indoors. They overwinter there, they decorate my place in the summer, lovely. They were snipped and then a cut was made just below a leaf node, and then, I mean, it's idiot gardening, plonked in a jam jar of water. Of course, over the time I've had to top up the water, but you can see, look at the massive roots. Really, I could have probably potted these up 4 or 5 weeks ago. And then, just very simply, now into their own individual pots, in a bit of compost. I'll give them a really good watering in, because even though I brought them from home, I managed to find, these are sacred now, aren't they? Plastic bags. I don't have many plastic bags. The ones I have, I keep, I wash them out, I dry them out, and I reuse, because that's what I wanted to bring them along in today. I didn't want them to dry out, having removed them from their water. You could, of course, I suppose, get some newspaper, dampen it, roll up the roots in the damp newspaper for bringing here. I mean, it's not a massive issue, but it's just one of those things where, just in terms of your planning, think about it. This is the first job I'm doing today, because I don't want them sitting out in the sun with their roots in nothing. Oh, the smell is gorgeous. So I will, oh, big lump in there. I will finish with these, get these done, get the watering can out. I know it sounds daft after rain, doesn't it? It's one of those things that even when we've had a ton of rain, oh, that's not very centred, even when we've had a ton of rain, I'll still keep an eye on anything that's in pots. For instance, I've just dropped, so at this time of year, as you know, I never come to the garden empty-handed. I've always got these 2 bags. They're great because they fit a gravel tray in the bottom. You make that out. Perfect for transporting all, oh my goodness, probably in the end hundreds of seedlings, little plantlets, down to the garden to either go in the cold frame for hardening, what have you. And I just noticed now, because there's another bag with some tomatoes in, oh, I think some need potting on, and I've just plonked it by the cold frame, that one of the top windows in the cold frame is open on one side, the other side isn't. So that's one of those other things to keep an eye on, is that, yeah, we've had all this rain, but let's not forget that some areas of the garden won't have had it. So one side of the cold frame is in standing water. I might need to tip a bit out. The other side is bone dry. So yeah, greenhouses, cold frames, all these things, just remember to check if they all need watering too. What a happy bird. Do you think birds are happier after rain? I've got a bit of a theory that they always seem to sing more brightly, more chirpily, more loudly after rain. Maybe they're singing to each other, the rain stopped, quick, let's get out and get some food. Right, last one. This is such a lovely way to start my session in the garden. There's going to be some grunt work later on. And for those of you who are on Facebook and Instagram, there was a bed that I started on, I think it was Wednesday, and it got too hot. It just got too hot. I'd already done one bed. I started another one. It got so hot and I felt a bit swore from the heat. So I thought, you know what, stop, go home. And I never did get back to it. So hopefully this rain has done me a bit of a favour and softened the ground. But never mind that for now. Let's go and look at what happened with those seedlings that I sowed 1 week ago, and other stuff at that end of the garden. Come on, let's go and check on the seeds. Oh, I do love the green after rain. Okay, let's go right to the top of the garden. I want to check on, I've already had a sneaky peek. Oh, and it's time to start harvesting. I'm going to do another video on that, harvesting and seed saving. So these two beds are my onions from sets, and then over in this bed, oh my goodness, the sun is coming out strongly. If you remember, this bed now has carrots in, and then right on the end, oh, we're going to be deep in shadow. Will it show? I think it will show. I put in those spare onion sets. 1, 2, they're just poking. So that was a week and a day ago. Good, but, well, I didn't really expect it. In there, no sign of any carrots germinating yet. You see, I said yet. I'm going to stay hopeful. But it is a bit of a disappointment. Opla. You remember I used my seed sown onions as row markers, 4 rows. That one got completely, oh, can it possibly sprout back? It got nibbled down by the slugs. That one has had a nibble too. I've never ever had my onion tops nibbled by slugs, ever. Now, the only difference is that I've always grown from sets, and you can see over here all the sets that, can you make it out? They've all sprouted, I mean, they're looking grand, they're looking really well, not a single nibble. So I don't know, do the shoots come out a bit tougher on sets than on seed sown? Grr, that is very disappointing. My first ever attempt at onions from seeds. I'm definitely going to have a go next year. Well, I say definitely. Let's see how these ones do. Right, so that was the carrots that went in, what did I just say, 1 week and 1 day ago. Oh, windy. Back down the path. Oh yeah, look at those broad beans. I'm going to harvest in the next day or so. God, some of them are whoppers. Look at the size of that. That is, it's got to be nearly 12 inches long. Stop getting distracted. Now, oh, we have action. So this bed, this is where I sowed on the same day as the onions and carrots, so a week, a day ago. I've got 2 rows of parsnips, no sign, I wouldn't expect it. On this side, oh my giddy goodness. Oh, crikey. I mean, I know I sowed heavy-handedly because I hadn't sorted out the calendula seed. It was literally the seeds, pretty much in the seed heads still. Oh, darn it, bit of plastic. Where's that come from? You see, I'm always finding plastic in my garden, and I've never used anything like that. Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to sort them, so there were bits of stalk in there, bits of the actual seed head as well as the seeds, so I did just chuck it in very liberally. Wow, gonna have a bumper harvest of calendula this year by the looks of it. Will I thin them? Possibly. I might, yeah, possibly a little tiny bit. I mean, in all honesty, you know, they're pretty, it's hard to go wrong with calendula. They're really tufty little things. You know, whether they're the self-sown ones that come up in the piles, even when the piles are like concrete, when they're packed together like this. Yeah, so I may not thin them. I don't know if you can see from here how the cold frame is filling up. Lovely. Right, let's go this way though and check on the seeds that were a week ago. Oh yes. Oh, I can see shootings. So just very quickly, let me take you through these so I remember as well. So this is beetroot, and that's a type of spinach. This is chard, and that's another type of spinach. And what I've done is, in each little module, well, there's supposed to be 3 seeds in each module. In some cases there will be more. I was a bit heavy-handed, and then the idea is that I won't thin them. I'm just going to grab the whole plug out and sock it in the ground as it is, which is what I did last year, and it worked, you know, just fine. This next tray, oh, nothing, I don't think anything's showing in here. This is different types of lettuce. So I've got is it Romanescu or something, and then I've got oh no, I'm lying. This isn't salads. This is 3 types of fennel. Nothing showing. That's probably not surprising. I think they will take a bit longer. This is lettuce. This is, what have I got in here? Some Lolo Rosso, some Merveille de Quatre Saisons, the Flashy Butterfly, and some Rubens Red. Oh, I do love the Rubens Red. And it looks like all, and in the Lolo Rosso, no, it looks like all of them except the Lolo Rosso have germinated. That was just one row in there, but that was quite old seed. I wasn't expecting much. That was a bit of an afterthought, just chuck it in. But what I will be doing with all the lettuce in any case is, once they're big enough to get them in the ground, get them in the ground. And although I will use them as cut and come again, I will still do so a whole another tray to keep me going a bit longer. Hooray! That is at the back. That's purple sprouting broccoli. Now, I only want 15 plants and there's 15 cells in there. So rather than pop them on this year, I'm thinking about just thinning them within each cell by way of just a little tiny pair of scissors, snipping them off at soil level. This in here, oh, you're not going to be able to see it. I don't think you'll be able to see it. Can you just make that out? This is a red kale. That's why you can't see it, because it's sort of against the... Can you make them out? Anyway, they've germinated. At the back there, that's Cavolinero. Brilliant. I love my Cavollo. And then here I've got my, I've not grown it before. This is seed from Paul, and it's dazzling blue kale. And they're going for it, aren't they? Then, also from Paul, this front 3 here, this is Portuguese cabbage. I'm growing that instead of any other cabbages this year. And then this is all Calabrese, what we think of as broccoli when we go to the supermarket. Again, that was a mix of mixture of old seeds. So chucked them in, great. This tray is cucumber, and it looks like all bar that one have germinated. They're only just germinating there. You can see they're just breaking the surface. So I think that one will come. Now, oh, my back, sorry, that's my own saved seed, and I don't want to jinx myself, but every other year, all my seed has germinated and come true. I've got over there, that's 6 courgettes, no sign of them yet. I expect those to be a little bit slower, and that's some seed that Jim sent me. We'll see how that gets on. And then I'm going to stand up, sorry, my back. Finally, down here is my parsnip experiment. So I've got 20 loo rolls. Now I only sowed 1 parsnip in each roll. I should have done 2. The idea is that as soon as I see any sign of germination on the top, is to quickly whisk them out of this tray. Oh, leave them in the loo roll, but whisk them out of the tray and get them into the ground. Hopefully before the tap root that is developing, hopefully before it hits the bottom of the tray and starts to want to go elsewhere, because then it will not transplant very well. But yeah, the minute I see some germination, that should mean that the root is developing. Quick, get it in the open ground. And then also, if none of them germinate, well, you know what, I might just stick a bean seed in there instead. How long do I wait to decide if it's worked or not? Okay, let's have a quick look at the cold frame. Do you know what? I think I can harvest some more rhubarb. I wasn't going to harvest anymore. I was going to let it rest, but it's just chucking out leaf after leaf after leaf. Yeah, I might have some. I don't know if I showed you this recently either. Can you see? Who's that in the garden, Vivi? That's my lovely garden sculpture made from scrap metal. He's called Clint. He's keeping an eye on things in the herb garden. That was a really lovely gift from Richard and Paul that I've had at the flat until now. And I thought, no, it's high time. He comes down and starts making friends with the garden. Right, so in the cold frame. These need to come out. This is Gardener's Delight are the big ones, and then the little ones are some of the sort of little cherry tomatoes that Steve sent me seed for. But inside the cold frame, I don't know if you're going to be able to make this out, but can you see how the peppers, they're sitting in water from where the roof was open. So those over there, that's all Fersen. They've had right royal nibbles. This is some of the orange bell, has more to bring down. And then over here, all the tomatoes. The ones over there, that's Gardener's Delight. That is mostly, I think, Rose de Berne. This down here is Amish paste. Let's get you a bit closer. This is Amish paste, and what I'm really, really delighted about is this is all my, not all of them, some of them, this is the Guernsey toms. They're looking really well, but they're also looking bone dry. Everything needs a good soaking on this side. Right, and they need their friends to join them. So I need to go and get another couple of gravel trays that I've left up at the shed. Bring those down to stand them in so that they've got something for water to collect in, so that I don't have to water 3 times a day. Yay! Good stuff. Something I forgot to mention, coming back. Did you notice? My trays are covered in tulle. I completely forgot to mention this when I was talking about slug prevention. This can also help prevent damage from slugs. Now, the only thing I'm concerned about is I've tried to get it tucked all the way under, all the way around and under. There might be a bit of a snarl up over there. Before I put it on, obviously I checked underneath all the pots that there weren't any slugs already in there and trapped. But yeah, this can work as a really, really fab slug prevention. So, you know, fingers crossed. And talking of slug prevention, going back a couple of days, do you remember I was mentioning the sort of flying saucer halo things the girls have got next door? I was saying to them that I'd mentioned it on one of my videos, but I hadn't filmed it because they weren't around for permission. Anyway, they said, oh yeah, come over and film. You're more than welcome. So here follows a little bit I filmed a couple of days ago to show you what the girls do next door for their slug prevention. So I just had a quick word with the women next door to me, and they said, yes, I'm more than welcome to film these to show. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Building work, it's that time of year. Actually, let me step a bit closer. So these are the Slug Deterrents I was mentioning. Apparently they are £16 for 6, which is what, £2.65 or so each. So yeah, it's a big investment, but just chatting with them now, they reckon they're about 98% brilliant. Now this is what I meant the other day about, you see here, it's really quite a steep lip. So if the slug is coming up here, I think it's that they can't double back on themselves to come up and over. So I know a few people were mentioning like cut down water bottles or whatever, but I think it's, that builder's going to do my note. I think it's the angle which makes it happen. So what they were advising as well is that yes, they work brilliantly, but they do still keep an eye on them, because occasionally a slug will manage to find its way in, but they just go in and pick it out and end up with really beautiful lettuce. So these lettuce are little teeny tiny babies still. Well, actually they're getting away, aren't they? And they put these in maybe a couple of weeks ago as really teeny tiny little things, and you can see not a nibble, not a single nibble. They are absolutely absolutely brilliant. Got a couple more there. This is the chard. I gave him a couple of plants of chard last year because theirs didn't germinate. Still going strong. Actually, it's just now starting to come to flower. Yeah, so a load more. Like I said, yeah, it is expensive, but this plastic, it's really tough. I mean, it's got a bit of pliability to it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got some pliability, so it's not that kind of plastic that goes really brittle and snaps. So in theory, these should last them forever. So maybe it's one of those things, you know, on your sort of Christmas wish list. If your family say, what would you like for Christmas? You could say some slug flying saucer things and build yourself up a little collection over time. Fantastic. Right, back on with my garden. Oh my goodness. The sight of those newly emerging seeds, it never gets old, does it? It doesn't matter how long, or snail, it doesn't matter how many years you've been gardening for, it's still such a joy. I mean, you know, I remember the year when Auntie Teapot and I did a witch trial. Not a witch as in witch, W-H-I-C-H, witch magazine, consumer journalist magazine. We took part in one of their growing trials. Auntie Teapot must have been 98 when we did it. Now, a lot of the seeds she couldn't really handle, a bit small, but like the tomato seeds she couldn't handle, but the calendula she just about managed. And you know what, there she was, 98-year-old, she's been growing things all her life. And when those first little bits of seedlings came up, oh my goodness, the joy, the ecstasy, she'd ring me. If I wasn't actually at hers, she'd ring me to say, oh, our first tomatoes are up. I love it, yeah. Like I said, it never, ever gets old. There's just so much promise in those little teeny, tiny specks of green, isn't there? So my last job of this morning before I start on to my arduous jobs, like digging and bed prep, I'm just potting up these little cherry tomatoes. These are from some seeds that Steve sent me. Thank you, lovely. And I was just thinking about this, having, you know, looked at the seeds on the deck with you all and now looking at these, how that's one of the other joys of the garden, isn't it? The garden is littered with friends. What I mean by that is, no, they're not all hiding in bushes. It's just that thing of going around and looking at the seeds and thinking, oh, that's, you know, the dazzling blue kale, that's the Portuguese cabbage, that seed from Paul, those seeds from courgette, these seeds from Steve. In the shed, oh my God, I'm so late. I need to get on with sowing beans next week. Next week is going to be a mammoth push to get things sown, the last things sown. But in the beans, I think, you know, the Madeira Maroon, again, it's another one that Paul introduced me to. I grew them for the first time last year, loved them. I can't remember how many seeds Paul had managed to spare for me. I think it's about 18 or so. And I think I grew about 6 plants, and from that I now have a massive stock of seed. Oh, label. And the Coco de Paimpol, you know, that was a handful, maybe 8 seeds that Gary gave to me, and he'd been given it by his wife, who had been in France on a sort of a culinary course. So she'd had a sort of, you know, one of these like holidays. It's a learning holiday. So she'd been up in Brittany, and it must have been around about August, beginning of September, because on one of the days they were cooking with Coco de Paimpol, and she loved it, and she's like, oh, I'm going to bring this home, get Gary to grow it. The reason these are falling apart a bit as I'm doing it is I only potted them on about a week ago. They haven't really got massive roots, but I just didn't have anything bigger than that at home, so they need to go into the big pots. Yes, so she brought them home for Gary, he grew them on, gave me that little handful, I grew them on, and by now a load of you have also had some seed from me. So I love it, I love that it's just this garden full of friends. Yeah, and every little jaunt around the garden, one can't help but think of those friends who've spared their seeds, or sometimes it might be something like the little ornament from Richard and Paul, my little Clint, the scrap metal bird. Love it. So, where am I at? I'm really, really behind still. I will say, in terms of seed sowing, that's a whole lot done on the deck. Great. That should all have been done about a month ago. It's done now. The beans, I would normally have started sowing my beans by, say, about the 10th of May. I'm talking about sowing direct. The beds aren't ready for them to be sown direct. I'm going to sow a load in pots again as I continue to get the beds ready. So I think in terms of the beans, chickpeas, some of those beds are ready, so they can be direct. But overall, I think all my legumes on protein is, I'm getting it in 2 weeks late. They should be fine, they should catch up. Bed prep, I think well, this year, of course, I had wanted to have all the bed prep done by the end of April, because last year it took me, I got it all but one bed done by the end of May. I did the final bed in the first week of June. I didn't want that to happen this year, but of course I missed 4 weeks, so it has happened. I think realistically now, by the end of May, how realistic is it? I would like to get the 5 remaining beds prepped. I think that is achievable, I think that's realistic. So 5 remaining beds prepped, all my bean seeds either sown direct or sown in pots if direct isn't possible. And then, where's it? Oh, there it is. And then as we go into the first week of June, hopefully I'll be able to start planting out tomatoes and peppers and put bean arches up, cucumber frame. So I really wanted all of that done by now, actually. It didn't happen, never mind, I can catch up. What's crazy is, so of course I will direct seed some of the beds, but by the end of June I've normally planted out my first plants, my first little baby plants, the peppers for instance, the first tomatoes, what have you. It looks like this year I will be digging up a harvest before I even plant my first plants out. Bonkers. The garlic, because we've had all this rain, I want to get them out. So it's quite possible that I will be taking my garlic out before I've put a single plant in this year. Hey, stuff happens. Right, that's enough for today, I think. I'll get these little lot finished off, give them a good soaking, pop them in the cold frame with their friends. The cold frame is open around the sides, one pane is open the top. It's minimal protection they're getting. I mean, yeah, everything in there is doing fine. Nighttime temps are hovering just in double figures now of about 10 degrees centigrade. So, yeah, all systems go. It's just now find time and get on with it. So, until the next time I see you, please look after yourselves. Have fun in your gardens, whatever stage you're at. I know some of you will be in climates chillier than mine, so you'll have hardly started yet. Some of you are in warmer climates and you're harvesting your first tomatoes already, you crazy dudes. But you know what? Whatever stage you're at, you know what stage you need to be at. As much as you can, enjoy it, and as much as you can, try to take a few moments during each visit to just sit back, look, and embrace the gorgeousness of it all. See you soon, lovelies. Cheerio.